Hello, this evening we're going to do some more of our English practices. We are gonna talk about the new video from Mr. OKAMOTO Yoshiki, but first let's say something about our weather. You can see that it's a little bit cloudy, and just a while ago, around maybe 4 o'clock or so, I could see that the sky was quite bright, and the sun was there again and was incredibly hot. So I think this weather that we have here really makes us know that we are in summer. And I think that if we are to pick which month is the best in terms of the weather, um, I think maybe February would be maybe February towards March, something like that. For like a vacation in one of those islands that we have here in the Philippines, because if you go there by April, maybe it's gonna be like this type of weather where it's too hot and it's cloudy at times. So I think February to March, around that time, there would be um, this coolness just coming out of December, just coming out of this cold weather that we have here every time of the year where you got December, January, which is winter in other places. So February to March, around that time, might be the ideal weather condition to go to the beach or something like that. Um, I do still remember though that I think it was only in March that it stopped raining, and I was saying that um, for the whole of March. No, no. I think what I said was um, it's not gonna rain anymore by March. It's not gonna rain anymore by March. But when we got to March, we found that it was a little bit raining, but it wasn't as strong. It wasn't too much. I mean, like if you go outside in the morning, it could rain, but you didn't need to bring your umbrella or something like that outside. So I think by February, mid-February, going to March, I remember saying that we didn't need to expect any rain coming at all. So in that sense, I think, like I said, the ideal weather to go to the beach here in the Philippines seems to be mid-February to March, because it's a lot cooler. Okay. All right. So after saying that stuff and using up about 3 minutes, let's dive into Mr. Okamoto Yoshiki's new video, where he explains this thing about NFTs, bitcoins, because digital currency, I think a lot of people are wondering how they could make money, how they could get into this digital bandwagon. And what Mr. Okamotoshiki is saying is that if you are gonna buy NFT or any of those bitcoins, because Bitcoin, he says he has Bitcoin, but he hasn't bought any of those other ones like the Ethereum or something like that. And he's saying that it's first advisable to understand how the system works, because if you observe how the prices go up and down, you'll see that it's kind of like doing this wave motion, where right now maybe it's at a high point, but it could quickly drop, and so the value is much lower, right? And when you say that it drops by several times, so it's not just like 2 times large, it's even more. I think in the video we're saying like thousands more in terms of value, right? So um, if you still wanna buy, if you still wanna get into this digital currency, then I think the next question is, how do you actually make money? If it goes up and goes down like that, it's way too much. You lose money very quickly, even though maybe at first you'll gain money, but the value, because it goes down, you lose a lot, right? And Mr. Okamoto is saying that actually in this type of system, what he found was there's this group quite powerful because they can pretty much change how things go, in a sense that if the value right now is this much, they can do stuff to the system so that the value would drop very quickly. And so, how did they do that, right? I think that's a pretty good question, and I think if we just think about how economics work, how the system works in economics, well, we remember supply and demand, where if you have a lot of people selling and not a lot of people are buying, then the value would be lower, right? Because everyone's selling. Well, we say everyone, but a lot of people are selling, but no one seems to be buying. And so the price is going lower and lower, right? And if the guys who are controlling the system, because they were the first guys who bought the NFTs, the digital currency, they have a lot of these things. They have more than any of the other guys who just newly came, right? So they can do this um, thing pretty well. They can change the prices in such a way that um, if they want to get more NFTs, if you want to get more bitcoins from other people that are not part of their group, then they can just create this situation where we're selling, and other people don't seem to be buying, and so the prices are going down. Now the other people who are not part of the group see this trend and they think that, oh no, it's going to drop, we got to sell, because otherwise the value, our NFT, our Bitcoin value, won't be worth anything if we don't sell now, so we'll sell. And so because the guys who were first and are a pretty powerful groups know this is what the other people are gonna do, then they wait for these guys to sell their bitcoins, and then they buy them, right? Which is much cheaper, and in that way they can get more and more of these things, and so they control the system in that way. So now the next question is, if you were one of those ordinary guys who currently is not part of that group at all, and you're still thinking about how am I gonna make money, then it seems like you gotta be part of the group. You gotta be part of the group that controls the system if you wanna earn, right? The thing is, how do you do that? How do you get part of the group? And I was saying in the other classes, well, you first identify who are the members of the group. And usually, like what I said a while ago, they're the guys who first bought the Bitcoin, the digital currency items. And you gotta identify who they are and see what they're doing. And then from there, you get to learn how the market, the trend is gonna go. Now I just said market, but actually from economics too, we learned that no one can supposedly control the market, right? In the sense that in an economy like the United States, um, no one strong group could just say this is what the item that's supposed to be sold, and how much it's gonna cost, right? Of course, there are other economies that can sort of regulate and do stuff with how, for example, this item is not gonna be sold here at all. We don't want it at all. By creating a lot of the barriers so that the price would go up, right? And I know there are a lot of countries who are thinking about controlling how they do importation, like for example Singapore and Japan that do this type of thing. But if you're talking about a market like the United States, then generally know that the people who have the money to buy stuff are not necessarily gonna be just controlled by government in such a way that it's kind of similar with how things work in Singapore or Japan, right? Because what they want there is to get prices much cheaper, people competing with one another, whether you're importing, whether you're creating these goods yourself here, as long as the prices are well, if you're competing, then the price is supposed to be going down, right? So that's the idea. Now, in this case, with a digital currency, it seems like it has appeared to be quite obvious that a strong group, could control how the prices go. So identifying who these are helps you understand where the trend is going, right? And one of the things that we can learn too is that um, the case about the um, FTX, the one with Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried, is a case that helps us understand how the leaders, the guys who bought the digital currency first, um, well, they could pretty much break the system in the sense that in this case, from what I understand, he could just um, break the rules because the rules say that you can't transfer the coins in this system to another, right? And what he did was he transferred the digital coins from this system, from the FTX to another one, and that's why people lost confidence. People lost trust in the system because you're just breaking the rules, and we don't know if the value of whatever we have here will be worth anything at all after this, because people see that, oh, it looks like the guys who are controlling the system can just pretty much do that, and um, not a lot of people are trusting the system anymore in that sense. So not a lot of people trusting the system, prices go down because a lot of people are selling. They don't want it anymore, right? So that's one of the things that we can find if we attempt to identify who were the guys who bought the digital coins first and what they're doing. And in this case, we learn that the guy who was leading this FTX got incarcerated, got arrested. So, well, what about the other ones? What about the other digital currencies? Now, that's what we gotta do. We gotta look at how their leaders are doing. What are they doing? If they're learning from this incident, then um, we should understand what other thing they're doing. What is this thing that they're doing differently, right? Okay. All right. Let me see how many minutes I've used up. Okay, so about 30 minutes. I'm saying these things because I read the news. I watched Deutsche Welle I mean the one from Germany in Spanish, and I do these things because I need to know how I can also make money, right? Because I know that there are a lot of people, I guess, who have high level skills that they don't really need to know a lot of these information because they can pretty much earn, and their salary is already high enough to sustain them without really knowing too much about these things. But in my case, because I'm in the IT field, and I know that an ordinary person doesn't really earn as much in actuality, because I know there are a lot of people who would say he's an ID, he's got to be really rich, really wealthy, right? But actually, if you look at how things are, many of the ID guys, I guess, have that sense that um, um, like what we often read about these guys who build a startup and get a lot of money afterwards. I think in most cases, ordinary guys like myself, we don't really earn as much. That's why we gotta know, using what we know in computers, IT, how we gonna increase our income, right? And the way to do that is to get information. Get information, get from the news, what people are doing, particularly the guys who have a lot of money. And in that way, we know how they make money, right? And that's what I've been doing. I've been learning about how people who have gotten wealthy, whether it's in the IT industry or whatever industry, what are the things that they've done, and what are the things that they're doing, so that maybe I can also earn much more. So, for example, in this case with Mr. OKAMOTO Yoshiki, because he's sharing stuff that he's also reading, he's also learning, because we know that in his case, we know he's gotten a lot of money by working on this game for a social networking service in Japan, Mixi. This game called Monster Strike. He was able to get hold of a lot of money that way. Now he's going for, of course, earning continuously and making sure that he doesn't end up in one of those situations he encountered previously, where he had a lot of debt and he had to pay the government, Japanese government, a lot of money. And so he's also looking for ways to make money, right? And I'm looking at his videos to understand his perspective on things, because he's Japanese, and of course there are certain people who offer another point of view. For example, here in the Philippines, a lot of people maybe have this lens made by the USA. So if everyone's looking in that way, then maybe we ought to look at how guys like Mr. Okamotoski are also looking at things, right? And in that way, we get a much wider perspective. Okay, so we gather information, we look at how people are making money and see what they're doing, and maybe we can also apply it in our own lives, and in that way we can also earn much more. Because if you just go ahead, for example, with this NFT digital currency thing, without really knowing how people already view it, especially people who are looking at the market because they've actually bought the digital currency, then it looks like you're putting a lot of money on something that may not give you a lot of return, right? And I think for something like this, like what we know with stock exchanges abroad, like in the United States, you'll have to have at least 500,000 pesos, I think, to get into one of those platforms to buy and sell stuff, right? So at least 500,000 pesos. And if you're willing to just put it there and then like lose the money that quickly, then I hope you're entertained, entertained that way, right? But ordinarily, people would want to make money, of course, right? If you put 500,000 pesos in whatever stock, of course you want to make it grow, right? And so, um, what you want is information. How do you make it grow, right? And that's why what I was saying was, let's look at how people are doing things, right? People who seem to have more knowledge about NFT, blockchain, digital currency, and of course the other stuff like stocks in the industry and things like that, right? And locally, what I do is I look at banks like BPI, like Gokongwei, Lance Gokongwei, what he's doing, and things like that. And we have learned about this news from him also about this. Um, it's a way for banks to, particularly I think in this case, this Robinson Bank, where previously you cannot store foreign currency like US dollars inside the bank, right? Here in the Philippines locally. So what they're doing is they're letting you put in your US dollars in the bank, and I think you can get a higher return in that way too. Because I remember about 10 years ago, if you go to the BPI bank, you cannot store your yen there at all, right? So you gotta exchange it for peso, and then that's what you put into the bank. Now in this case, they're looking at, well, if you have yen, if you have dollars, well, right now it's dollars. If you have dollars, why not put the dollars as is in the bank, right? And you can earn much more too. So that's what they are working on. And I think based on these information, these news, then we can piece together what exactly they're going for too, right? And in that way, we know how we can put ourselves in a situation where we can get more money and earn more money, um, and um, in that way, our problem with the constantly looking for ways to make money and earning money is partly solved, right? Because we have already the information. Now the next part would be to act. If you are confident, if you believe and you understand what is the outcome, there would be a risk, and you're willing to take the risk, then go do it, right? Okay, so I think that should be enough for now. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you